You know how you scroll through hundreds of online ads every day for, I don't know, sneakers, software, pretty much anything? They're just kind of there, part of the internet's background noise. But what if some of those ads aren't actually selling you anything? What if they're a cover for something way, way darker?
Seriously, what if the real product being moved isn't a pair of shoes, but millions in illegal cash? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a movie, but this is a real-world scheme, and it's happening right now on the very same ad platforms you and I use every single day.
So, to really wrap our heads around this, you have to understand the insane scale we're talking about. Every single day, billions of dollars are zipping through platforms like Google, Meta, and TikTok. It's this gigantic, super fast global marketplace. And you know what they say? Wherever that much money is moving that quickly, criminals are sure to follow.
So how does a space that was built to sell us stuff become a playground for financial crime? Well, it turns out that the very things that make digital advertising so great for businesses also, unfortunately, make it a perfect tool for criminals.
It's really a perfect storm when you think about it. You've got this massive, and I mean massive, volume of transactions happening practically in real time. It's all automated, so there's very little human oversight. Then you add in the global reach, so money can jump across borders in a blink. And the best part, if you're a criminal, it's all pretty opaque. $1 million payment for an ad campaign just looks like, well, a marketing expense.
To really pull this off, criminals rely on a classic money laundering tactic called layering. Okay, imagine you're trying to find one specific needle in a haystack the size of a mountain. That's layering. The whole point is to create so many different financial steps between the dirty money and its final destination that investigators just get lost. And these huge ad platforms? Well, they've basically become the perfect digital haystack.
Okay, so we get why they do it, but how? How do they actually pull this off? Let's open up the criminal's playbook and break down the specific schemes they're using to turn ad clicks into clean cash. So, method number one is a classic trick, just given a 21st century makeover, creating a totally fake business. It's actually shockingly simple, but man, is it effective. All right, here's how it works. Step one. A criminal whips up a slick-looking website for a business that is completely fictional. Step two, they take their dirty cash and pump it into a huge ad campaign on Google or Facebook, driving tons of traffic to their phantom site. And just like that, a pile of illicit money is magically transformed into a legitimate marketing expense. It's perfectly layered, hidden right there in plain sight. Now, this next method is even sneakier. You don't even need a whole fake business for this one. Instead, it cleverly exploits a really basic everyday feature of any ad platform. You guessed it, the refund button. Check out how clever this is. A criminal loads, say, $100,000 of dirty money into an ad account. Then they run a tiny little $5 ad campaign, just for appearances. A day later, they cancel the whole thing and ask for a refund on the remaining $99,995. But here's the real kicker. They have the refund sent to a completely different, totally clean bank account. Boom. The money is now officially washed by the platform's own system. Okay, this third method gets a bit more sophisticated. This one involves creating a whole closed loop where, get this, the criminals are pretty much just paying themselves. This is where it gets really crafty. The advertiser and the website publisher are actually in on the scam together. A criminal group uses dirty money to buy ads. Those ads then point to websites that are also controlled by their own network. Then they just unleash bots or click farms to generate a flood of fake traffic. The ad platform sees all these clicks, pays the network, and voila, the dirty money is suddenly clean, legitimate revenue for their own websites. And as if all that wasn't complicated enough, these launderers will often add yet another layer of crime into the mix, which makes the money trail almost impossible to follow. Stolen credit cards and bank accounts. So instead of using their own funds, they'll use dozens, maybe hundreds of stolen credit cards to fund all their different ad accounts. This creates this incredibly tangled web that is an absolute nightmare for investigators to unravel. Every single stolen card is another false trail, another dead end in the hunt for where the money actually came from. So with all these complex schemes, you've got to be wondering, how does anyone possibly catch these guys? Well, even though criminals try their best to blend in, their behavior often creates these little patterns, these digital fingerprints that really stand out if you know what to look for. You know, when you put them side by side, the difference in behavior is pretty stark. A real business has an ad budget that makes sense for its size. A criminal front, you might see a tiny, brand new company suddenly spending millions on ads. Real ads lead to websites that actually work.
Criminal ads, a lot of the time, they just go to dead ends or irrelevant pages. And maybe the biggest tell, when investigators start asking questions, legit advertisers help out. Criminals, they get defensive. These are the red flags that can unravel the whole thing.
So if there are red flags, why is this still such a massive problem? Well, the answer lies in this huge regulatory blind spot that criminals have been expertly exploiting for years.
Here's the absolute core of the issue. Banks are built like fortresses. They are super heavily regulated with strict ID checks and constant monitoring for anything suspicious. But ad platforms, they're built for one thing: speed. They want you to sign up and start spending money as fast as possible, so there's barely any onboarding. This fundamental difference creates a gaping hole in the system, and criminals are more than happy to dive right through it.
Now, the good news is that the world is finally starting to catch on. Global watchdogs like the Financial Action Task Force have actually flagged this as a major emerging threat. That blind spot is slowly but surely coming into focus. And all of this brings us back to the central paradox of this whole problem. The entire advertising industry is about one thing: being seen. And yet one of the biggest threats to its integrity has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. Look, here's the simple but powerful truth. For way too long, the financial world and the advertising world have been treated like two totally separate universes. But in our digital age, that's a really dangerous assumption. A payment for an ad campaign needs just as much scrutiny as any other financial transaction. Because at the end of the day, ad money is still money.
And that leaves us with one last pretty important question. We've just seen how criminals can turn a simple online ad into a tool for a multi-billion-dollar crime. It really makes you wonder, as more and more of our lives go digital, where else are these blind spots? What other everyday online tools are being used in ways we can't even imagine?